This guy's dropping puzzles with pupils. Here's your look at McFarlane Toys, DC Multiverse, DC Classics, McFarlane Platinum Edition, The Riddler. Edward Nygma found his ticket to the big time as an employee of Wayne Industries, securing the role of advisor to Philip Kane, Bruce Wayne's uncle who ran the Wayne Corporation when Bruce left the train to become the Batman. Nygma began plotting to take over the city, an expert strategist and genius-level knowledge of history. It was not long before Nygma adopted the guise of the supervillain, calling himself the Riddler. Why is it not a good idea to tell a potato farmer a secret? The answer is because he's surrounded by eyes. Before we get a closer look at the gold label edition, actually it's not even a gold label edition, it's the platinum edition Riddler from the folks over at McFarlane Toys. I'd like to first thank the folks over at McFarlane that did provide the sample we could have a look at. As for the height of Edward Nygma, you're looking at the figure being the same as before, that one being the other Riddler that we've already had a look at. The figure's about 6.5 inches in height, or the figure's going to be 16.5 centimeters tall. As for a couple of figure comparisons, the obvious one would be to bring in the original Riddler that we've already had a look at, which you can see body and build are exactly the same. Other than obviously cosmetic changes do differ one Riddler to the other. Honestly though, I still kind of like this Riddler just a little bit more. The white eyes I think work really well with the figure's face, not to mention the various question marks scattered across his body. Other comparisons we can also do as well. I wanted to bring in Batman from, of course, Batman Nightfall. Here's also what the figure looks like with the gold label edition. I think this is the gold label edition Robin. And a Catwoman, even though it's not really necessarily a Catwoman that would pair well with it. It's one of the closest Catwoman we have, at least from a comic standpoint. Here's what the Riddler also looks like with the Nightfall Catwoman. A nice looking figure overall. Accessories for Edward Nygma are more of the same, as the figure comes included with the same trading card, same display stand of course, and comes included with the same series of hands and cane. Backtracking a bit, going back to the trading card, the figure comes included with a card again that's the exact same card, just going to bring in the one that we got before. Colors are maybe a little bit warmer here on the other Riddler card, but other than that, I mean, I'm sure they're exactly the same to one another, even with the two riddles posed in front of it as he's holding it up. One being, of course, how can one get into a locked cemetery at night, and can you tell what nationality Napoleon's parents were? Anybody remember what the answers were in the earlier video? The answer to this is, of course, skeleton key. And how can you tell what nationality Napoleon's parents were? Of course I can. Those are the answers. Of course, flipping around to the back, the read-ups are exactly the same as one from one to the other. Of course, the real names are Edward Nygma, and the paragraph read are exactly the same. Just a very generalized statement about, of course, the villain that would be then Riddler. Accessories as well. The figure comes included with, oh, actually, you know what? Almost beelined it past the display stand. That's one time we've actually, in fact, forgotten the display stand. He comes, in fact, with, yes, the same black display stand with the DC logo printed down below and one peg to the top corner. Whew, almost forgot about that. Not going to forget the fact that the figure comes included with a cane. The cane, though, is molded exactly the same as the cane before from other Riddler. Although, I will say, like, the colors of the gold seem a little bit darker on this version of Riddler than the one we got before. I'm sure they deliberately molded it, or it may have just been a change of the plastic. Maybe they mixed one plastic color out, put the next vat of plastic in, and just so happened to be a darker color as a resulting of it. I can't imagine that they would have said to themselves, we have to deliberately make one cane as close of it as it is in color. We have to make this one notably a lighter gold than the one that's literally just one shade darker, even half a shade darker. I would imagine they probably just changed out the vats of the plastics. Not that I'm any expert when it comes to vatting and molding figure parts, but that's my guess at least. Both the canes, by the way, like the one that we already had a look at, is a fairly soft plastic. So just keep that in mind. The figure, of course, comes with a series of interchangeable hands. Strangely, though, that they packaged both Riddlers with like sort of an open gestured hand and then a gripping hand for obviously holding the cane. Usually when it comes to these hands being packed away, they're generally stored on the forearms with closed fists. Not this time around. You're actually getting the closed fists as separate pieces. You have to then, of course, just change those out. Figure also comes included with a thumbs up hand and he also comes included with a pointing hand. A suitable pointing hand, I feel, for a character like the Riddler. If he's going to be rhyming through riddles to, of course, the Cape Crusader and the Boy Wonder, I think a pointing hand and even a thumbs up, maybe a thumbs up not as much, but a pointing hand definitely is a requirement, I feel, for a character like Riddler. Then the figure finally comes included with another gripping hand, and he also comes included with what I feel to be a better gestured hand than what we get here. This hand, actually, I think is really good for it. Like, if you wanted to have the hand outward like this really looks like Riddler's about to, or is in the process right now, of rhyming off a riddle to, again, Batman and Robin. The figure, like I said, does have the means to swap out the hands. Let's just say you're not super crazy about the idea of getting those hands. Like, for example, you could change, let's just say, popping out the hands. One thing I did want to say, though, is that the pegs seem to be the same in a way that when I did do the review of the other Riddler, I mentioned that the two halves of the peg are kind of prone to separating one another. Like, this does not change at all when it comes to this version of Riddler. And actually, just before I pop out, say, and pop in a new hand, one thing that it also has, like the other Riddler before, you already probably have noticed with the figure that I brought in for comparisons, was actually absent of the glove. I had already taken the liberty of removing the glove. The glove is actually technically removable if you wanted to. That would be, of course, I'm just going to bring in the Riddler now. I've already said that. I kind of like the smaller gloves, honestly, maybe on this version of Riddler, but I maybe just to differentiate them even further, I might decide just to keep the gloves on this Riddler so that it looks even different from the other one. But anyways, though, if you want to change out the hands, you're just going to pop the new hand then into the peg. So now, of course, you can hold the cane on this one side. And why not? Maybe we'll remove this hand. We'll divorce it from the peg. Just there we go. And then we're going to replace it then with the other, what I feel to be a better looking hand. I mean, honestly, like that I think is a much better hand than, say, the flat hand that he gets included with when he first comes out of his plastic prison. Okay, so getting a closer look now at this Riddler, I'm just going to kind of move all the accessories out of the way. And of course, it's best to probably bring in the original Riddler so you can see the difference between the two. It's head sculpt wise exactly the same. The colors are a little bit brighter, I feel, on this release, and I'm not just solely saying it for the costume either. It seems like also like his skin tone is a little bit notably lighter. He does have the same color of purple mask. Still, I feel bears a little bit of resemblance to actor Henry Cavill. The thing, though, that's notably different between the two is not the cleft chin. That's one thing it carries over, is the fact that this Riddler also has pupils. Costume also is going to be very drastically different. It doesn't have the brighter green that this one had. It certainly doesn't have as many question marks as this one has that I'm tapping so violently. This one only has just a singular question mark. But the thing I like really about this Riddler, and while I really think this is still my favorite, the thing I like about this one, though, is it kind of reminds me of the old Batman animated series. Not the Batman TAS series, not the one by Bruce Timm, but I'm even thinking earlier than that. Just recently, in fact, they actually released the Batman animated series. I think that was the one that had Casey Kasem as Robin, or it might have even been Burt Ward still. But there's actually Riddler in that series that he has pupils in his eyes. And one of the things that's really notably different about that Riddler is the fact that when he talks with always a really high-pitched voice. If you've ever had the chance to watch the Batman animated series, I know there's certainly several of them. This probably would have been like the early 80s, just recently got released on a Blu-ray format. But this really does remind me of the Riddler from that Batman animated series. Again, like, he's muscular enough that he's intimidating enough. He's not a very lean, like, tall drink of water Riddler who looks like he could easily be pushed around. Like, this Riddler's a fairly muscular build character. And of course, as the review had done earlier, is using the same body as the Blue Beetle and the Black Adam. So, not the Black Adam, the Captain Atom. So if you have either one of those figures, it's, obviously the exact same body. And yeah, it's using, sure, the same still body as this one. But of course, the colors are a little bit more muted. The greens are definitely a lot more darker. And even like the fact that this has a question mark, the question mark now is presented here in purple to match the belt and the gloves, rather than the black question marks that were on the original release. I do like the fact that they're different enough that I'm not just feeling like, okay, one Riddler, for example, is just going to be having darker colored outfit and he's still going to have the same number of question marks all over his body. No, like, there's enough to change on this one that you feel like you're getting a different figure, even though you already know you're not. Again, like the rest of the build of the body, he doesn't have, again, like any of the question marks anywhere on the rest of his body other than just really the question mark on the front of his torso. And I think, honestly, for a figure like this, that's enough. If you really did want a lot of the question marks, or if you want your figure to maybe look more like the Kenner original Superpowers figure, which I think actually was just a remold of the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, This is obviously the one that maybe you will want to go with. And I still do like the idea that this one has the white eyes. But I gotta say, there's something still charming about the fact that this one does have still pupils. Something a little bit different. Something a little bit different from the other earlier looked at Riddler. For the figure's articulation, it's going to be exactly the same. So no surprises here at all. The head rotates all the way around via the ball joint. The head looks up that far, and it looks down that low. You can rock it back and forth also as well. Shoulders are going to work also exactly the same, so you're going to get beyond the point of 90 degrees. You can take those arms and rotate them all the way around. Figure has still the swivel in the bicep, still possesses the double hinge on the elbow, and the hands work exactly the same as the Riddler before. Upper torso is on a ball joint. Lower torso is also on a ball joint. The legs split out, once again relying on ratcheted joints on the inside cavities of the thighs. Legs go forward, the legs go back. Still, though, the figure does have these softer, rubbery, sort of lower trunk area. I know a lot of people call them figure diapers. I think, honestly, again, I think they're getting better and better with the figure diapers so that they look a little bit more tapered to the body. They don't look like they're separate pieces. Obviously, they are, but they don't look as big and bulky as before. The figure's legs do swivel. Did I already cover that off? Figure's thighs swivel. Figure has a double hinge on the knee. No articulation again at all in the boot. Again, the boots would have been used before on the Blue Beetle, so this would have been normally have been painted in black. With, of course, the release of Riddler here, they're just using just the molding of the green. But the feet at least move up and down this way. You can rock them back and forth this way. And the figure also has some decent toe articulation. Goes without saying. All in all, it's good enough Riddler where I feel like there's changes made that it doesn't just simply feel like a Malibu Stacy. That being Malibu Stacy in that episode of Simpsons where they simply just gave her a sun hat and they re-released her again. Not a case of Malibu Stacy this time around for the Riddler. The colors have very drastically been changed between the two. Very more muted on this side. This form, for me, again, reads more like a cartoon, like an early 80s cartoon Riddler. Whereas this one really, for me, screams more like the Kenner days. Like Riddler, just kind of more like the DC Multiverse back in the day, like DC Universe Classics at one point had done a Riddler like this. And again, that very much evokes those sort of memories. I think all in all, if I had the chance to choose only, say, one, I would lean more, I think, to the direction of getting this one, just because, again, I like the brighter colors. I like the way that he has, just the white eyes there in his mask. I think overall that's a better looking Riddler, but I think there's still a lot of interest enough in this one that I think it's definitely worth to pick up both if you get the chance. I ended up having to look it up, and sure enough, it was Filmation's Adventures of Batman, which just recently has been released on Blu-ray. Picked up the set for myself, and funny enough, though, as we're looking at Riddler here and wrapping things up, the first episode I ended up watching on the Filmation Adventures of Batman was, in fact, a Riddler episode. How about that? And that's maybe one of the reasons why it's embedded into my skull, the high-pitched sound of Riddler's voice. Seriously, it's this sort of wheezing voice that he has as he's reciting through his riddles. It's a very jarring, not so much sight to see, but a sight more to hear. As it certainly goes when it comes to this Riddler, I do really like the color changes on this one to definitely justify the idea of getting this one if you already have the other Riddler. Also, with this having the removable glove portion, as we certainly covered off that territory in the other Riddler review, one thing that's also good about that is it makes it even more different. Not just the color scheme, not just the fact that this one does have peepers, but also the fact that you can keep the gloves intact. That's what I'm going to do at least. Keep the gloves on this one, and then keep the glove part off on the other figure. So again, it's going to make the two Riddlers look very much more different from one another. Accessory-wise, they're exactly the same. Trading cards, they're exactly the same. Display stands, which I almost forgot, are exactly the same. So again, it's more just the cosmetic changes. It's just more to a case of whether you like the kind of multiple question mark classic look to Riddler, or if you kind of like this one that looks like high-pitched sounding Riddler from the animated. Seriously, you really have to look it up at least. Filmation's Adventures of Batman from the 1980s. Riddler is a high-pitched sounding lunatic. Anyways, a big thank you to the folks over at McFarlane Toys. It's disturbing. Big thank you once again to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the brand new DC Multiverse, DC Classics. And I want to make sure I say this right, the Platinum Edition, because usually they're gold label editions. This is actually specifically the Platinum Edition release of the Riddler. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if really given the chance, say that someone's twisting your rubber arm, if you had to choose only one Riddler, which one would it be? Would it be this one, or would it be the one that has the multiple question marks? Let me know down below in the comment section. In the meantime, though, if you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you would like to certainly stick around for more, I hope so, please Make sure you turn on of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button first, but make sure, of course, you're turning on the bell notification also. We will be looking at some more DC Multiverse stuff. I know that's the kind of thing you guys usually like to come back to this channel for. Of course, sprinkled amongst all that, we will be looking at other things as well. There's always a vast variety of stuff that's happening here on this channel. I like to consider it like a multiple buffet table. Like, you're not just going there solely for the chicken balls and chicken wings. I like to think you're also perusing around the salad. Okay, no, not everybody's really okay, nobody peruses around the salad bar at buffets. Really, seriously, who does that? But it's definitely going to be a lot more videos coming your way either way. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.